What is going on, everybody? Another conversation. We're joined today by Max Burkholder. So Ted was my favorite season of television last year. You guys did a phenomenal job with that show. I didn't know what to expect, especially after the movies. But you started acting at a super young age. What was that journey like to become an actor?
Oh, man. I mean, you're right. I did start acting at a very young age. I entered the workforce, like many people do, I feel like, at the ripe old age of 3 for a movie called Daddy Daycare. What was that journey like? Well, I'll tell you, for the first couple of years of it, I had no idea that it was a journey that I was on. Didn't know that I was making movies or that I was, all I really knew at the time was that I got to get pulled out of school sometimes. And that was very fun. I mean, talk about like getting to go to a doctor's appointment and then coming back to school after lunch, having had McDonald's while everybody else had bag lunches. It was kind of like that, except I didn't have to go to the doctor.
That's always fun.
Yeah.
So you just I just get these fun play dates and then go back to school. No big deal.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what it felt like, especially on Daddy Daycare. I was just going to play around with like 25 other kids every day. It was awesome.
Right.
Just for just a few hours too, because you can't work that long when you're a kid. Also, I'm just realizing now, am I the third geek in this scenario?
You are.
Yes.
Okay, great. Yeah, awesome.
Well, welcome to the geek world.
Love it. Oh, I've been here quite a while. You don't need to welcome me. I appreciate it though.
Love it. How did you kind of navigate that transition from child actor to your adult movies?
Oh, man, ask me when it happens. I'm still playing. I'm 28 years old and I'm still playing like 17, 18 years old. I don't know exactly how I navigated it. For better or for worse, I feel like I was behaving like an adult professional from younger age. And certainly for better or for worse is an accurate way to describe that. Yeah, I mean, the transition, it's the job has remained the same the whole time. If anything, it's gotten easier simply because I don't have any sort of other obligations, such as like schoolwork, getting ready for tests, exams, I don't have to write any like personal statements for college applications anymore.
So how did you get involved with My Friend Tigger and Pooh?
Oh my God, y'all are pulling up the deep cuts today. That was, God, I would have been going into those studios and recording that when I was like 8, something around there. That was like an era when I was doing a lot of voice stuff. I was doing the Family Guy stuff with Seth. That's how I first started working with him. I was doing the Family Guy, American Dad, Cleveland Show voices whenever they needed like a little kid voice. I was doing the Land Before Time animated series, and I was doing My Friends Tigger and Pooh. That was all sort of like wrapped up at the same time. Auditioning, that's, you're asking me how I get involved in it. It's the same as for just about anything else, especially when you're that age. I wasn't, at 6 or 7 years old, I wasn't taking general meetings with the head of Disney XD and saying, I'd really love it if we could find a way to work together.
When you started acting, I mean, you were fairly young when you got into voice acting as well. Was there like a specific thing that made you just kind of go like, yeah, sure, I'll do the voices, or was that something you wanted to do?
I mean, voice acting in particular, I don't consider myself a voice actor anymore, certainly, because, the things that real professional trained voice actors are capable of doing is not something that I count as being in my skill set. But at the time, certainly, I mean, it is, especially for a kid when all that's being demanded of you is sounding like a child. And Tara Strong was busy that day, so they didn't have anyone else who could come in and sound like a child. What's it called? When that's all that's sort of being asked of you and you can say a line convincingly, it's the easiest and most fun job there is in the world. I will say I get like that, like embarrassment, shame stuff when I look back and like hear my 7-year-old self singing something that really sort of gets me. I remember auditioning actually for, I think, the Land Before Time one, where they had me sing Twinkle Twinkle Little Star in the audition room. And it was very unusual to me. I'd never been asked to sing in an audition before, but man, I should have flubbed it because having those recordings of me out there is truly embarrassing.
So you mentioned that, you worked on Family Guy, and obviously, but what was the audition like for Ted? Because you're coming into an already established role.
Yeah, I'll tell you, in that same vein of like, moving out of like being a child actor into like an adult actor, this was what, 3-4 years ago. I was 24 auditioning to play 16, and I've always played younger than myself. I really have never not. But I really thought, I was like, I'm getting too old to play a high schooler. There's no shot that this is going to work out. But I made the tape. Everything's self-tape now. So I made the tape. I sent it in thinking, well, I'm not going to get the John part, but they might bring me back in and have me audition again for like a guest spot later in the season or something. Like there's always a possibility of that. These are good people to put myself in front of. And then they kept telling me that the tape was going like sort of higher and higher. Like it went past casting and it went to the producers and then it went to some execs. And then I was informed that it landed in front of Seth. And then all of a sudden we were in negotiations. And the whole time I'm freaking out because I'm like, it's just the one tape. Like, do they not need me to like, and I was living in, I live in New York. I was in New York at the time and all this stuff was happening in LA. And I was like, do they need me to come out and like show them something else? Like, I'm getting a little nervous. And then eventually I just got the call from Seth off the one tape, which is not something that typically happens. It was kind of wild.
What's the process like for you though? Do you go into, because you've made John Bennett your own. Like, I don't feel like going into the show, and I think one of the best decisions made is you're not doing a Mark Wahlberg impression. And like, what was your process? When you record the tape, are you like, I'm going to do my best Mark Wahlberg, or do you try to make it your own?
Recording the tape, I will say, and he deserves a shout out after all these years. It was my brother who was helping me record it. He was my reader, and he also did voices in Family Guy and sort of Seth MacFarlane stuff growing up. He's not an actor anymore, but we were both doing that when we were kids. And our sense of humor is so colored by all of that, having grown up doing that and having grown up watching that it made the sort of back and forth, the repartee, very smooth. And so I wasn't, again, as you say, doing a Mark Wahlberg impression, but I feel like because my and my brother's comedy DNA is so influenced by Seth MacFarlane that really was a helpful thing there.
Yeah, that would definitely help. I was going to ask, since you were voices on it, a lot of the times people don't watch things they're in. So you did kind of, you're right at that same age kind of age range I'm in. And yeah, we grew up on Family Guy, American Dad and all that. So you did in fact watch it even being voicing in it. Yeah,
it's different when it's not my face. I'll say that much. When it's like an animated thing, it's much easier for me to watch. It took me like last time around with Ted, 2 years ago now, when season 1 was dropping, I only watched the first 2 episodes for like 6 or 7 months, because I watching myself act is something that is really tough for me to get behind. I'm only recently coming around to the necessity of it. And so I only watched the first couple that the press had seen so that I could talk with everybody about, what's in the episodes. But then eventually I broke down and I was like, well, there's other people in the show and they did a really good job and it's probably really funny. So I can get over myself a little bit and watch it, not for myself, but despite the fact that I'm in it.
Yeah. Well, and like a lot of actors, they don't like to see their work. Like I know, like Adam Driver specifically has mentioned many times he will never watch anything he's acted in because he can't do it. I think a lot of that is like kind of going and being like, oh, I could have done that better. Is that kind of your feeling on that? Like you don't?
No, for sure. No, you're exactly right. I've come around to it recently in terms of like watching my self tapes before I send them in. Like I've come to the conclusion that that's probably a good idea for me to see what I did before I show it to people who might want to hire me. During season 1, we were maybe like 3/4 of the way through the season, and Seth invited the cast over to his house and we were hanging out. And he said he had a rough cut of one of the episodes to show us. And we were all very excited and we sit down and we watch it. And it was a huge mistake, like for me personally, because I watch it and I see all the horrible choices I made and different things I could have done, and there's too much me in there, and it's, I'm not sunk into the story enough, and yada yada yada. And so for the next 2 or 3 months, not months, 2 or 3 weeks on set, like I was having a huge crisis of confidence. I'm awful. Everything that was coming out of my mouth felt fake, which is not sort of the headspace you want to be in when you're playing second lead to a bear.
How is that process? Is there like a stuffed animal, a puppet, or are you talking to green screen? How does that work?
Not even green screen. Sometimes, basically, whenever the bear is on camera, there's nothing there. Every so often, it'll be either a woman named Allie wearing a glove with like sort of Ted fur on it, in case we need to hand something back and forth, or a little eyeline tool, which looks like it's sort of like a spar of metal with 2 little googly eyes coming off of it, which is more for like camera and animation reference than anything being helpful to perform with. But yeah, usually it's nothing there.
Anybody feed you the TED lines? Because that makes
it's Seth.
Even more.
He's there directing every episode and doing the lines live, which I don't understand how he can split his brain in the way that he does. He's usually wearing 3 to 5 hats at the same time. It's kind of crazy, but as I talked about before with my brother, but the repartee and the sort of rapport would have a lot harder of a time working if Seth wasn't there actually doing the lines. Like his timing is so like, it's something you can learn, but his in particular is so like specific and has that like really rapid fire DNA to it that without him it would be a lot tougher for sure.
So my favorite episode is the one where you and Ted become parents to your bully. Do you have a favorite scene or favorite episode that you filmed?
Man, I don't know what I'm allowed to talk about for season 2. I certainly have a favorite episode for season 2. And it's very in line with the 3 Geeks theme. There is a moment in the trailer where you can see me holding a wizard staff and wearing a big wizard robe. So if that gives you any hint of what my favorite of season 2 is, season 1, man, God, we shot that like 3 years ago. So that's a tough one to remember. I don't know, anything where I got to do even like a semblance of a stunt was always fun, like falling off the car. But by and large, it's Ashton, the stunt double that they normally have for me, who's doing most of that. Those are also fun days just to watch. Just watching someone doing a stunt live in front of you. There's almost nothing as inherently interesting in the world. There's like that and like watching a fight break out, and those are the 2 most inherently interesting things I think you can watch.
Did you ever have those? I could do that moments with the stunts.
No. I mean, sometimes the ones where I do are the ones where they let me, where it's planned that I'm gonna do it.
Yeah.
I don't even try to do the. First of all, I don't have the training. Second of all, I don't have the courage. Those are 2 very important pieces, I feel like, to doing your own stunts.
Yeah.
What does Max like to do outside of acting?
Oh, sleep. Outside of acting, I play a lot of video games, read a lot of manga. I play some D&D. I just had my players over on Tuesday. They backdoored their way into inventing raves in a fantasy world. They created what is this sort of homebrew world's version of Bergheim. It was very funny. But yeah, I boulder sometimes. I used to ride horses a lot, not so much anymore. These are the things.
Oh, I love it. We've talked about doing like a live D&D campaign with 3 Geeks people and bringing people on. You'd have to come join us if we do.
Oh yes, absolutely. I mean, hey, like getting into the actual play scene, that's a dream for sure.
With the Purge.
Yeah.
The Purge kind of took you into a darker world than you had kind of really ever worked in before. What drew you to that project?
I know what you're talking about. My friends Tigger and Pooh is really the darkness that exists within the 100-acre where I mean, for God's sake, there's heffalumps and woozles about. It's really tough, but I do understand what you mean. Certainly darker human place. What was that like? I mean, kind of it's the same as anything else. It's what's going to happen beforehand. Certainly I didn't have to go to a very dark place during the Purge. I didn't have to kill anybody. Like I got to stay, relatively like innocent and put upon throughout the whole thing. So, it's not something that I really took home with me, if that makes sense.
That's good.
Well, Max, thank you so much for your time. Where can everybody find you online?
Oh, you can find me online at Max Burkholder on Instagram. They made me change it from @fat_kookaburra to make me easier to find. I still think maybe I should go back and rechange my handle if Instagram would let me, simply because I really loved having that for a while. That's the only place I'm really on. I had X and Twitter for a while, or X and Threads for a while, but I had to delete them because the time sinks were too much. And it was stressing me out. So it's not where I go online anymore.
Yeah, no, it's a very stressful place, especially on those two. Everybody, Ted Season 2 comes out March 5th. Make sure you go stream it over on Peacock. Like, comment, share, subscribe, and we'll chat soon.